Witam Państwa bardzo serdecznie na dzisiejszym spotkaniu online. Dzisiaj naszym gościem jest David Millington, Senior Product Manager w firmie Embarcadero, odpowiedzialny między innymi za rozwój C-Buildera, Delphi, jak też całego Rad Studio. Tematem dzisiejszego spotkania jest właśnie C-Builder, którego premiera odbyła się około 2 tygodni temu. W tym momencie usłyszymy najważniejsze rzeczy, które zostały wprowadzone do środowiska. Oddaję głos, że tak powiem, prezentorowi głównemu dzisiejszego eventu, czyli Davidowi. Okay, David, it's now your turn. Please do your presentation. We are listening and
All right, thanks very much. Well, look, it's great to be here, everyone. I hope you can all see the slides. Now, I have a lot of slides, but I'm not going to go through them all. They're going to be available as a download. I think it's much better to go and demo things live. It's much more interesting. But I'll just go through a few things fairly quickly. I'm just here to talk about C++ Builder and Red Studio in general, but mostly with a focus on C++ Builder. But it's always worth reminding you of all the other IDEA companies. There's quite a lot of them now. I lost count at 17, but it's worth checking them out at some point. And what we're going to go through today is just a subset of what is new in Red Studio in C Builder 12. We had our launch webinar a couple of weeks ago, and we repeated it about 1 week ago. It is well over an hour, and even that doesn't cover everything that's new in Red Studio in general. And then today I'm just going to focus on just a few things there, just to try and keep it sort of reasonable and minimal and allow time for questions. But Red Studio 12 is a huge release, one of the largest we've ever done, and there's a vast amount of new material in it. So I recommend checking out the What's New on the Doc Wiki, but also really our full launch webinar. If you have time, take an hour and 15 at least. Or if you want to, you can do that thing where you put a video on double speed so it goes through twice as fast, 45 minutes that way, to cover a whole bunch of the stuff that's new. It's absolutely packed. So look, I work as one of the senior product managers here, and I mostly focus on C++ and the IDE and the debugger and places like that. That's why I'm talking to you about C++ today. And let's see. I'm skipping through slides because I said I don't want to run through all of them. The slide you're seeing right now is our overview for the entire launch webinar, and what I've circled in red is what I'm going to cover today. And even that I'm going to cover in a minimal form just to keep it short. So I just really want to emphasize how much there is, and it's really worth checking everything out. But one of the big things that we've done in version 12 is to have an entirely overhauled experience for C++ Builder. I'm a C++ Builder developer myself. That's how I came here, and I think this is the release that I want to use. I'm incredibly happy with what we have. And there's some really exciting and really useful things for C++. I'm going to start with the integration of Visual Assist. Now, Visual Assist is another product owned by IDEA. You probably remember the slide a few minutes ago where I showed you how many companies are owned by IDEA. Visual Assist is a plugin for Visual Studio and Visual C++. And it does a lot of things, but it's mainly based on productivity. It is intended to fill in the gaps of any IDE and help you get stuff done really usefully. And ever since IDEA acquired it, we have wanted to integrate it into C++ Builder because it is so useful. An awful lot of the software that you use has been built with Visual Assist. I don't know what you're using to watch this right now, but there's a decent chance, 50-50 or so, that you're using software right now that was built with Visual Assist. You're certainly going to use software today that was built with it. It is a key part of Windows C++ software development, and now we're bringing it to C++ Builder. Now, it's a huge product, and we're going to keep on integrating more and add things. But in version 12, we have focused on 3 key areas. The code insight, especially code completion, but the other things around code insight, such as the various tooltips and hints. Code completion is an area that we've really wanted to do some work on for quite a while. We have a completely new code completion engine in version 12. Then there are refactorings, because code refactoring is an incredibly useful tool for getting your work done, for code maintenance and so forth. And navigations, this is something that Visual Assist is particularly good at and useful for, is navigating around your project and your code. I want to emphasize as well that Visual Assist is used industry-wide, worldwide as well, sometimes on some incredibly large code bases. So it is a very capable tool. Now, the first area is code completion, and look, I'll probably just show this in practice in a moment, but one thing I want to emphasize is that Visual Assist works very differently to the code completion that we've had before. So it's Visual Assist parses your code and parses your project and builds a database. But when it shows the results for something like code completion, as well as understanding your code and showing based on the type and so forth, it is also heuristic. It will make guesses. And the idea here is that it is intelligent about your code and will try to suggest things that are useful for you. So one example here is that it will even suggest items from headers that are not included. There's a screenshot there on the lower left where it shows completing student map. But if you look in the screenshot, you can see that the map header is not included. Well, how can it suggest that? Well, that's because it's intelligent and does know the map exists, so it's going to be able to complete it. It's not limited to the code that you write. It's aware of the entire project and it's aware of all the headers that are available. So it's a very powerful tool for code completion. Now I'm going to show this live in a second, but I'm going to get onto some of the refactoring. So I think at this point, I'm just going to switch to a demo. Demos are much more interesting. One moment, please. So I have CBuilder here, and I hope that it's visible for you. Now I have here a sample app that I often use for various demos. This is an app I wrote a few years ago. It's small enough that you can sort of navigate around, and I can explain it, but large enough that it's non-trivial. It's a real app. It does something useful. And as I said, Visual Assist is often run on projects that are millions of lines long. So let me dig into it and show you what's possible. All right, where do I begin? I think I should begin with find references. So let's think about navigations. It's really important to be able to navigate around your code. Now, we have a few new items here in the search main menu item. You'll see 5 items here with tomatoes and 2 more. One of the most important, most basic tools is to find references. So you can see here that I placed my cursor. Let me do this again so I can show you. I put my cursor here in grid. I have a maze grid type. Let me put my cursor in grid and go to search, find references. And this is going to find everywhere that grid type is used throughout the project group. Yeah. It can be not just the project, but also the entire project group. And you can see as I scroll here that it is aware of everywhere that it's used. This is a fairly fundamental tool, and you can see how fast it returned results. It's because it's a database query. It's not parsing when you ask it. It's already parsed. So it just has to execute a database query. And you can see the list here. I can just click something and it will take me there. This is incredibly useful just for being able to find where something is used in your code. Again, I think it's really worth emphasizing this is across a whole project group, not just across your current project. Although that said, we do have this find references in unit here. That's a little mini version for when you just know you want to really localize small search, just the current unit. It's a lot better than trying to do a find in files, because a find can often find things that use some of the same text, but have the same text in other phrases. This is aware of your code, so if it tells you, if it lists something as a reference, it's real, it really is a reference. I'm going to show as well find symbol. Now, find references, find something that's in your code or in your project or project group. Now, find symbol is quite different. It lets you find where something is defined anywhere. Could be your project, could be your project group, could just be anywhere that Visual Assist knows about, which includes all the headers of your project and their headers and so forth. So you can see I have a FireMonkey application here, but let me search for something that's very Windows specific, like handle, and you can see it knows about the Windows API headers, and it can take you to the definition of the handle type, and that's because Visual Assist is aware of all the headers on your system, all of the system headers, all of the user headers, all of your project headers, and so forth. Find symbol will search across everything and find anything. You can see up in the title bar here, it is searching through 230,100 symbols, but it's very fast to search. It can find anything. Not sure what to look for. Let's try and get window. There are a few different Win API things there. You can see it's automatically selected the most likely one, which is the actual get window method, but it's shown everything that matches. And you saw how fast it updated, searching through several hundred symbols. So find references, fantastic for finding anything in your code. Find symbol is fantastic for finding anything anywhere. You can narrow this down. So I'm going to search for grid again, and of course, there's a lot of things called grid. Now it's found all the ones in my project. Here the grid header, and here the class grid, and so forth. But there are a whole bunch of other things such as shell grid methods. There are a couple of things you can do. I can click this checkbox to search only symbols in the project group. That immediately narrows it down, or even only classes, structs, and namespaces. There's only one thing matching when I do that. So yeah, there are lots of filters there that you can do, and you can even search with substrings and exclusions, and type things to search with something that begins or ends with a particular phrase or so forth. Very powerful. Let's see, what else do we have? We have, yes, go to member. So let's suppose you have a type. There often are member fields, member properties, and so forth of a type. So again, my cursor is still here in grid. I'm going to search, go to member, and it will show you everything that is a member of the grid type. So you can see here I have some methods and I have some fields, and again, of course, I can double click and go right there. This is particularly useful because you can just put your cursor anywhere. Now see here that my cursor is in a variable, so I put my cursor in the owner symbol. It knows that owner is a T component, so it will show the members of T component. If I find something more complex, I think in the webinar I demonstrated here with this expression, image viewer bitmap assign. So if I put my cursor inside assign, then I can go to member, and it knows that when my cursor was in the method assign, that is a method on bitmap. It knows that bitmap is a T bitmap, and therefore will show me all the other members of T bitmap. So it demonstrates a lot of actual code understanding. It's very, very useful. You'll notice here that there's a big theme of just putting your cursor somewhere and then being able to get information about it. And you can also right-click as well for info. We have the find method here, references and find symbol and so forth. Now let me show you something else. There's one special feature that I'm going to leave for last because I really love it. But I want to show a few refactorings now. Now everything I've shown you is for navigation. You can jump around your code really easily. But I want to show you refactoring. Now we have a refactor menu here. And I'll show you a couple of small ones first, which are to create declaration and create implementation. If I switch over to the header here, I can create a new method, like so, void foo. And what I would then normally have to do is to switch over to the CPP file and then sort of type something and go void t_form2: foo, and so forth. You can see I even made a typo. Lots of manual work. It's really annoying to do that. What I can do here is I can put my cursor in foo and go to refactor and create the implementation. And you can see it has just added it for me. It's added a skeleton version. And it goes the other way as well. If I type something here, then I can go to refactor, create declaration. It's grayed out because the declaration already exists, but it'll create it in the header for me. And let me show you something else as well. So I have to think of a type that doesn't exist. I think let's try this. Okay, let's just try a vector. And you can see that your vector is not included in the headers or in these headers either. What I can do is I can place my cursor inside vector. Again, with Visual Assist, you always have to put your cursor in the symbol that's of interest. Put your cursor inside vector, go to the refactor menu, and you can see here, add include vector. I think this is fantastic. So there should be a right-click menu option as well, but I tend to stick to the main menus when I demo. So add include vector, click that, and you can see that it added vector for you. Oops, there's a painting issue there. That's a slight bug. There we go. Now this really shows that Visual Assist knows about more than your project and your project group. It is aware of everything, and that means it can make suggestions for things that aren't there yet. And although I demoed this with vector, you can do this with your own types as well. It knows about everything. If I had not included grid.h, then I could write code here about a grid, and it would offer to include grid.h. So both your own code and system code, it will offer to include for you. So going through this really fast, but that's create implementation, create declaration, and add include. And the final one is rename. So let me put my cursor here in grid. I can go to refactor, rename. And this is very similar to find references because it finds everywhere that grid is used. But as well as that, it will then let me change them all. And again, this is not a search and replace. It is aware of the code. So it will actually replace everywhere that uses grid. Now, there are two things to notice here. First of all, is to search all projects. Now, I happen to have only one project open, but you can rename across your entire project group. The second one's really useful, is you can display when a type is referred to in a comment or a string. And it's often, when you often have comments that refer to something, and you need to keep the comments up to date as well, but most refactoring tools won't do that. So if I happen to have a comment here, and I'm not certain if I have one, but if I did, then it would be listed here and it would actually rename and update that for me. So I can rename this here to, I don't know, grid hello, and click rename. And it will go through and will rename across the entire project group. And you can see that my type is now changed everywhere. Everywhere that it's used. Here it is again. And again, this is incredibly useful. These are the kind of refactoring tools that are really important for maintenance and for everyday code. So much stuff about find and replace, or search and replace, or searching can just be completely replaced with the tools that we have here. So both the refactorings and of course the searches about finding symbols and finding references and so forth. However, I hope I haven't gone too fast, but there's a lot to get through. There is one final thing that I particularly like, that I think is about my most favorite feature ever. And ever since we first checked it in, I started using it, and I was really looking forward to the release that I could show it off. And that is this particular menu item here, go to member. Now, in the past, we had the ability to control click on things in the editor. So you can see I'm sort of mouse overing several symbols here, and they turn to blue links, and I can click it, and that would take you to where the declaration was. Now, that's useful. It's nice to go to the declaration, but we have completely replaced that in version 12 with go-to related, because go-to related can take you to the declaration of something, but it can take you to pretty much anything that is useful. So let me control click here. You can also right click, by the way, with go-to related. But let me control click here on T component, and I get a menu that pops up, and I can go to the definition exactly the same way that I always used to be able to go to. But I can also go to some other things. Notice how fast it is to pop up as well. Like this is searching through the entire of FireMonkey, and it shows in, I don't know, 200 milliseconds or something. I can also go to the declaration. I can open GoToMember. I can go to the constructor, which is useful. Let me go there, go there as well. But where I think it gets particularly useful, now, first of all, this is useful by itself. It's not just go to definition anymore. You can go to where it's defined, where it's declared. You go to the constructors. You can open the GoToMember dialog and see all the members of T component, and there are quite a lot of them. And of course, you can filter here as well. Everything you'd normally expect. So really useful just as a control click. But where it gets particularly amazing to me are the two items that are pop-out menus, the base classes and derived classes. Now, if you have C++ code, you often have a lot of object-oriented code and methods that, types that you inherit from other types and so forth. And Visual Assist understands all of that. So I can look here and I can mouse over the base classes, and I can see that T component is declared, is inherited from T persistent and T object. And I can go there, I can click one, and it will take me right there. I can also control click, see all the derived classes, and there are a lot for T component. I can actually scroll through this menu, if I want to. But I might just go to something like T custom action here. Note you can see how indented it is, so it understands the implementation hierarchy. So I can continue navigating around, just clicking on any type anywhere, and see the base classes here of T custom action or the derived classes. These are all the classes that are derived from T custom action. As you can see, it's really fast as well. And this is extraordinarily useful just for quickly jumping around your code. Your code bases can get incredibly large, incredibly complex. Now let me try something else. Here we go. Let's, okay, a property. Now we actually haven't looked at any of the C++ builderisms yet, but I assure you that we haven't just integrated Visual Assist, we've made it aware of various C++ builder things like properties. You can see here, if I click a property here, that it has a derived symbol, and this will be where T custom text is redeclared. You can see here, custom text is redeclared. So the same thing works. Let's try virtual methods. In this case, instead of the base and derived types, it's the base and derived symbols. So you can see that my virtual loaded method here overrides T component loaded and is overridden by this one, T custom value range action loaded. And this is really useful as well when you want to see which methods are actually called. It's really common, at least for me, to have a virtual method, and I know that it's overridden somewhere. But where? How do you find it? And here it's as simple as just control click and it will list it for you. Absolutely amazing. So you can use this just to click anywhere. Just click a random type here, and it will show me the definition and the base classes of it, or the derived classes, or the constructors, or anything at all. And it works on types and methods and everything. It even works on more. I can sort of right click here and go to related on an include file. And then I can open that file or open the folder or see the includes that it has, or see what it's included by, or anything at all. So this is GoTo related. Incredible just for jumping around your code and really navigating fast. Absolutely amazing tool. So that's a lightning quick overview of Visual Assist. Has the code completion, has these refactorings. You can create method implementations and declarations. You can add an include file, just write code, then it'll add the includes that you need automatically for you. And you can rename any symbol. And then, of course, there's all the navigations. You can find references to anything in your project. You can find a symbol, which is anything the Visual Assist knows about, which is the entire system. You can go to a member and you can go to related. And something I didn't even show here was go to definition and go to implementation. Let me do that. Something that the Delphi has is that you can just press a keyboard shortcut, Control-Shift up or down, and it will toggle between the method declaration and implementation. This actually is one of the most requested features for C++ Builder by Delphi developers. And now we added it. We added this especially for C++ Builder. And that's the go to definition and go to implementation menu items here. So Visual Assist, gigantic, incredibly useful, very fast, has real slides because there are probably a few things that I want to cover. Let me see. So there are lots of slides and I don't really want to go through them all. Let me see while this loads here. What I really want to emphasize as well is that Visual Assist is not based on a compiler. So pretty much every other technology out there is based on passing your code like a compiler. And that is a problem for something that is meant to help a human. We don't read code like a compiler. And useful tools don't either. A compiler has to have code that is exactly correct or it runs into problems. And that's why something like code completion can fail, because you might have code that's half written and or has something that the particular technology can't pass or can't understand, and then it will fail to give results. Visual Assist is not like that. It's heuristic, it's fuzzy. It will pass code no matter what it is. You can have completely half-written code and you can still do refactorings and renames on it, which is absolutely extraordinary. That's unprecedented. There's a good reason we have really wanted this in C++ Builder, and it's not just because it's really useful for C++ Builder, but because it is world-leading technology. There's a reason that everyone who buys Visual Studio also buys Visual Assist, and now we have it in C++ Builder. So very fast, heuristic, lots of refactorings, lots of navigations. All right, so I can see some questions coming in. Please keep all those questions coming in. We'll answer them right at the end. Oh, deep breath, because there's so much to cover. But you can see why I'm so excited. I love using this. This is the kind of thing that I've wanted in C++ Builder for years, and using it is a real pleasure. It's just so fast. It's just there, and it works. It's absolutely amazing. So the next thing to cover is Clang. Now we're doing an upgrade of our Clang toolchain. Excuse me. That is in a tech preview state in C++ Builder 12. It'll come in a release very soon. But we felt it's such exciting work that we wanted to release it as a tech preview to let you experiment with it, to see what's coming. I'm going to give a very short demo here, but one of the things that we're doing is really building a new foundation. What happened in the past is that we had our Clang upgrade and then we stopped. No, we're using a very modern one now, and we're going to be keeping that up to date. And it is a full rework. We have a lot of goals here. Of course, there are things about modern C++ standards. Our key thing is that you should be able to find any C++ code online. Just pick a C++ library off GitHub and you should be able to use it. But of course, if you like, and I do hope that you like the modern coding standards or to use modern C++, you should be able to do that. We also want your apps to be really fast when they run. We want really good debugging. We want to solve every problem with the linker. If you have very big applications, you might run into trouble with our current linker. Well, we want to solve all of that. And we want to switch to the platform standards. And of course, do all this while it's still C++ builder, still has all the Delphiisms, still has things like properties and closures and the VCL and that kind of thing. And that's what we're doing. So we're basing it on Clang 15, which was the current at the time we started. We'll upgrade that after release. A couple of things in this slide to note that we're switching the object file format to COF. That's the same one that Visual Studio uses. There's a lot of other programs and tooling that understands COF, which means that we hope a lot of other tooling will be able to be used. Same with the debug format. We're now using PDB, which is the Windows standard debug format. Now, not only does this mean we hope you can use a whole bunch of other tooling that understands PDB, but also means C++ Builder will be able to debug many other programs and libraries and so forth. We are completely replacing the linker. iLink has its problems with really large projects. Well, we're using the LVM LD linker. It's really solid, fast, and can handle gigantic projects. We have a brand new STL, again, a LVM STL. So if you have issues with our current one, they should all be resolved. There are a lot of tests that we have passing. Even about 3 months ago, the number of STL tests that we had passing were much higher than for the STL we were already shipping. And of course, that was 3 months ago, and we have many more passing now. The quality of this thing is so much higher. We have a new runtime library. And again, we're taking the same approach there. It is really, really good. We've just spent several months working on exception handling. We wrote 326 extra tests above all the platform Microsoft tests, above everything else. They're all passing. We are thorough, not just to what other people are doing, but even thorough above that. We're using the universal C runtime, which is really performant. There's so many things that we're doing here, and I just really want to get the message across that this is a really solid and really exciting new version of the compiler. Now in 12.0, there's a technical preview. That preview doesn't yet compile VCL. We're planning, most likely, don't promise on a date or anything, but we might release an update for that sometime this month. And the hope there is that with that version of the technical preview, you'll be able to link against the VCL and have a VCL app. But yeah, technical preview, focus on pure C++. You can write anything that uses the STL or something like that and test it out. Look, I can give a very quick demo. We don't have much time, but let me give a very small demo. Let me see here. Alrighty, so I have several copies of Rad Studio open. I think actually I have, here we go, command line app. So look, I just have a tiny single C++ file here. This is a really small demo. It's just going to print hello world. But what I want to demonstrate here is that the compiler exists and how to use it. So right now it's command line only in the technical preview. Focus on static linking right now. Generate debug info with --debug. I'll pass in the C++ files. You can pass in others and so forth if you want to just pass them all in the command line. So test.cpp. And this will generate a statically linked app with debug info. Now this is static linking to the new RTL. It's using the UCRT. It will generate PDB format debug info. The object files will be COF and so forth. So if I run a directory listing, you can see that you have just modified just now test.pdb, for example. So you can use any debugger if you want that understands PDB files and debug this. And then we have test.exe. It'll just print hello world, but I might as well run it. Oh yes, and I had to print out a number as well. So let me show you. Let me see. This was just the source code. It was very small. Now, in the technical preview, you can only compile on the command line. You can't yet compile in the IDE, but you can debug in the IDE. So I can, let me see, load a process. Choose the 64-bit modern debugger, not the LDB debugger for C++. It still is LDB, it's just a new one. We'll coalesce these together when we actually release the toolchain properly. But meanwhile, choose the modern debugger, and you can choose to load and run. And let me do that. You can see here that I have my local variables and I have my integer and so forth. The string doesn't fully evaluate yet. This isn't ready. It isn't finished, but we will have a formatter for that, so you can see the string contents. But you can notice as well that if I scroll up, that it's loading the UCRT, for example, and that it's using LDB 15 and so forth. And of course, all this is coming from PDB debug format, which we've never used in the IDE before. So can't compile in the IDE yet, but you can debug, and we will most likely have a update for the technical preview fairly soon. But yeah, that's a preview of that. It's really exciting technology, really solid. Very, very excited about that. All right, enough C++. Let me talk about some of the other things like Skier. Now, Skier is a new rendering technology. Now it is available for both FireMonkey and VCL, but I'm just going to demo it for VCL. Now, of course, VCL has not changed. Everything we already use can still be used, but if you want to, you can use Skier. And Skier is a very fast 2D rendering library that runs on the GPU. It's used by Chrome, for example, and by other technologies. So it is extremely fast and extremely performant and lets you do a whole heap of very high quality graphics. Now I'm going to skip through the slides, but I just want to point out that there's a Skier API that you can use. And there are a bunch of new UI controls for both Delphi and C++ Builder. And the main thing that it provides, well, there are a whole lot of things, but it has 2D drawing, basically. And it comes with other support, things like animations and so forth. Everything is anti-aliased, everything is high quality. When you render with Skier, it really looks like a very modern application. Let's see, I have another slide here of things you can do. It supports right-to-left languages and shaders. You can run shaders in your VCL app for your rendering, for example. Now, slides are boring. Let's have a look at some demos of it. We have a great demo application. So let me switch over to where that one is. Where do I have it? Not sure where I have it actually. Let me see if I can find it. I think it was on my desktop. Here we go. These are just the demos that we have on our GitHub. So this is the C++ Skier demo. It's called Skier for Delphi because that's how it started. Yeah, it is available for C++ as well, of course. And this is the C++ demo. So let's just wait while that runs and links. Okay, so this demo here shows all the things that Skier can do. Now this is a VCL application. It has a whole bunch of controls. So it has a label, for example. This is a pretty cool standard label control. You can't do that with the normal T label. Let's see. Even just something like justified text. Many years ago, I wrote a library to output justified text with VCL. It's quite complex. This is the kind of thing that you can just do with Skier. Look how fast and smooth that is. It's really good at doing anything. Let me see what else we have. Animated images. Telegram. I don't know how many of you use Telegram, but you can just have Telegram stickers, for example, or an animated GIF, or here a bunch of sort of loading animations. Now this is VCL, but as you can see, everything is anti-aliased, incredibly fast. This is the kind of stuff you can just put in your application. If you want it to look modern, and if you want people to think this is a really modern app, Skier is the thing to use. You can have all sorts of drawing with curves and rotations. Let's see, there's all sorts of runtime effects. There are shaders. So let me run the shader with the mouse position. I hope this works when screen sharing, but this is following my mouse very exactly, far faster than you could ever get with GDI or tCanvas, because it's drawing as a shader on the GPU following the mouse. Let's see. This one is quite neat. It's a bunch of stars, but this is written as a shader. And this is a shader that runs in your VCL application. So you can write code that will render your graphics, and you can render anything you want. Let's see, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do. What's in the drawing, translations and rotations. Just have a look at the the demo app. It's quite amazing. All the various things that you can do. Here we have a bunch of sort of image filters running. And for the VCL, this is pretty amazing. Also works in FireMonkey. And so we have a few new VCL controls that use this. Of course, you can write or change your VCL controls to use this. If you have anything that you want to really wow or impress your users, this is how to do it. Or if you have anything that needs to get up on screen very fast, needs to have good performance, needs to have a good high frame rate. This could be charts or data or anything. There are lots of business apps, engineering apps, that kind of thing, where a fast data to screen pipeline is important. Skier is the way to do that in version 12. And let me see now, I have many other slides, but I'm just going to talk about one other thing, which is the MDI. Now, the MDI interface dates back to, golly, Windows 3.0 at least, possibly before then. And it is the multiple document interface where you have multiple windows inside another window. And in about Windows 10, it seemed to get abandoned by Microsoft. Applications don't work well at high DPI. And there are a bunch of other bugs and problems. There are problems using VCL styles, all sorts of things. The majority of it were bugs in Windows itself. We waited for a while to see if Microsoft would fix those issues. They didn't, so we have. And we have completely reworked the MDI architecture. You don't need to worry about any of the internals because you can just open your old project and recompile and it will just work. But it will now work with things like high DPI and VCL styles and so forth. We even added a tab control, which I think I have on one of these slides. Tell you what, I'll screen share again. So I think I already opened this on one of our, here we go. This is just a plain MDI application just created with the MDI wizard. So I can just create a couple of MDI windows, and you're probably used to this. But you'll notice that these actually render correctly. They look like Windows 10 and Windows 11 windows now. Windows itself doesn't handle that. But the really neat thing is that we have a tab control here. So you can implement Chrome style user interfaces if you want. I can maximize this into it. And then you have full screen tabs with a little menu here to show all the windows. And what this means is that you can have your MDI application, you can just rebuild with version 12. It will just work. but it means that things that didn't work in the past will work now. You can turn on high DPI and it will work, and you can run it on Windows 10, 11, and it will look correct. And you can also update your application to look a little more modern if you want. This tab control here actually has an underlying framework, so you can connect Windows to this window, for example, to a particular framework. So you can have a lot of control over what's shown and how. Alrighty. Let's go back to the presentation. So look, the final thing is just all the quality and stability that we added. We have a huge amount of work in many areas across the IDE and VCL and FireMonkey, the runtime library, the various toolchains and compilers and so forth. In this release, we fixed, golly, almost 2,000, where was it? 1,809 issues in total, which is a lot, 1,809 in total, including internal and public reports. And several hundred feature requests as well. That's not counting duplicates. These are unique issues. So a huge amount of stuff covered. And look, I just want to go back to the starting slide. What I've shown you today are just the areas that are outlined in red here. And pardon me, as you can tell, I've gone through even these really fast. There's a lot more to dig into in all of these. I didn't dig into Skier very deeply. I didn't show you how you can use it, but you can use it yourself very easily. You can add it to your own controls or your own rendering or your own forms very easily. I didn't dig into any of the code about MDI, which is partly because you can just recompile and use it. But there's interesting stuff there if you want to dig in. There's just so much here, and we just don't have time. And then there's all the other things you can see on screen that just haven't even looked at today. But there's a huge amount in Rad Studio 12. It's a really exciting release. And for me as Visual Assist, personally as a C++ builder user, this is the release I want to use. I'm incredibly happy there, and I love doing it. As I think you can tell, I get really excited because it's just so awesome. It's a real pleasure to use, and I really like being able to use C++ Builder and demo it and tell you that it's really fun and nice to use. Visual Assist makes it like that. It's absolutely amazing, and I love it. So, although I tried to go really fast, it took a long time. Thank you for watching. Let's have a live Q&A. I will stay online for as long as we need to as well. So write in lots of questions. Happy to answer everything.
Yes, hello. I think that, can you hear me? Yes?
I can, yes.
Yes, of course, thank you. Dobrze, czyli w pierwszej kolejności przejdziemy do pytań. Postaram się teraz tak zrobić, żeby wszyscy Państwo mieli wyświetlone te pytania, które będziemy zadawać. So, Q&A. To teraz było show question list. Dobrze, zobaczymy teraz, czy uda mi się wszystkie pytania, żeby były. Czy to będzie jakoś można. Dobrze. Okay, David. So here is the first question. I will not read it. You can read it from the screen. And if you could answer.
So the question is, Visual Assist versus Code Insight. Is the Code Insight obsolete in this context? It's not obsolete. We have replaced how it works. So Code Insight still exists. Code completion is there. Tooltips are still there, and so forth. Everything that we call Code Insight is still there. But by default, the results are generated from Visual Assist. Now, the old technology, cQuery and C++ LSP, is still there, and there's an option. You can turn that on if you want to. We do hope that Visual Assist is the way forward. It's been used by many other people and some gigantic projects for many years. And so we're going to keep on expanding that. But it's not obsolete, it's just replaced. We have a newer, better technology behind Code Insight.
Okay. So let's try another about integration with AI, C-Builder?
Oh, yes, excellent question. Do we plan to integrate C++ Builder with AI, such as GitHub Copilot? Look, very likely. We have a bunch of internal discussion and plans around this, and there's nothing I can share because we have quite a strict policy about stuff that we can say, I'm afraid. But there's definitely a lot of interest. A lot of people internally are very excited about this kind of thing. So I'm afraid the best answer I can say is stay tuned. But it is the direction everything is going. So it's likely, yes. I'm sorry, I can't give you a concrete answer. As we aren't able to give concrete answers,
I understand.
but definitely of interest.
Okay, we go to another.
Does Visual Assist support generating documentation like Eclipse does for Java? No, but that's a great feature request that we could add. So right now we're adding the most core features, things around code completion and refactorings. Visual Assist has a dozen different refactorings, and we only put in a couple, as you saw in 12.0. We'll be expanding that over time. Documentation is really important. So this isn't the first time that we've had a request like that. So we're definitely paying attention to that. I think it's an excellent request.
Okay. This is a little bit longer, but...
Sure. So this is about Visual Assist, saying the functions are very handy, and yes, it is. I absolutely love them. Did we test their efficiency on bigger projects? And using RadStudio and Code Insights isn't very good. Will it be usable on bigger projects as well? Yes, we certainly hope so. Visual Assist is tested with projects up to about 6 million lines. So we certainly expect it to be able to handle very large projects. What will happen is you'll open your project and Visual Assist will parse and it will create a database, and the database exists on disk as a cache. And then everything after that is a database query. Database queries are quite fast. That's how you can get code completion just popping up, just like that. So the initial time will be when it first passes your project, the first time you open it. And for most projects, this is also quite quick. If you have 6 million lines of code, it might take about 10 minutes the first time that you open it. But if you have 1 million lines of code, wait a minute, it'll pass. And then every other time that you start the IDE, it will just be able to load the database and it'll have it there straight away. So yes, it should definitely be able to handle big projects.
Okay. The next one.
Is it possible to compile applications written in C-Builder and deploy to macOS 64-bit? No, it isn't. Currently, we support Windows, and our focus is on the new Clang compiler, as you saw. We're very interested in expanding that to other platforms, back to support Mac, for example. But we need to finish it for Windows first before looking at that, and then deciding what other platforms we'll move on to support.
Okay.
The new linker. I mentioned that it is bigger for gigantic projects. There's someone mentioning here they had a problem with iLink 64. They had used Split Dwarf. Can we hope the new linker will handle 1,000 file projects? Yeah, we certainly hope so. So we added Split Dwarf as a kind of a workaround, a way to help with this problem. But the new linker uses a completely different debug format, and it is a completely new linker. Now, because we have a tech preview and we're still building, we haven't tested it with gigantic projects yet. But we do know the same linker is used by other people with gigantic projects. I believe people even compile something like Chrome with it. If it can handle Chrome, you certainly hope it'll be able to handle any other project that we throw at it.
Okay. The next.
So the new linker already written in 64-bit architecture. I'll have to check whether we're currently using a 32 or 64-bit build, but the way it's designed also means that shouldn't matter. iLink ran out of memory because it tried to assemble a whole bunch of stuff in memory all at once, and often it just ran out of memory space. The new linker works in a completely different way. So I'll check whether we're using a 64 or 32-bit build, but also it just doesn't matter nearly so much.
Okay.
The SOAP client and server, does it support MTO and
This was another question.
files? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. SOAP client server, does it support MTOM binary attachments such as zip files, not text files? I don't know, I'm afraid. I'm sorry, this is not something that I looked after for 12, and I don't personally know, and I would have to go check internally. But drop me an email and I will go and find out and give you an answer.
Okay, there's another.
So the question is about components. Clang needs special compiling and installing components. I'm not completely certain what this is about, I'm afraid, but I can guess. And in the past, when you compiled a component with Clang and tried to install it in the IDE, you often had problems. And the problems were around things all to do with RTTI, such as generating events, something like that. Those are all fixed. So as of, I think it is 11.0, Clang now generates exactly the same RTTI, give or take 99.9% the same as the classic compiler. And this means that you can install a component with Clang into the IDE, and it'll generate the same component-specific, both C++ and Delphi-style RTTI, which means the IDE will handle it exactly the same. So you should be able to use Clang for compiling and installing components.
Okay. And the last 3 questions.
Sure. When there will be a JSON wizard or generator for C++ builder? I'm not quite sure about this. I'll check with Marco, who was the PM who was overseeing that. It was Delphi only in version 12, which I admit was a pity, but we've got lots of questions about C++ as well, so I'm hopeful that we'll add it for C++ soon. Drop me an email about that, and I will forward that on.
Okay, and CBuilder for Linux?
We have no plans for CBuilder for Linux right now, I'm afraid. It's the same as for Mac. We need to finish our upgrade for Windows, have a new foundation, have everything that is brand new and working well, which we should have very soon, by the way. And then after that, we will be deciding questions like Linux. So I can't give you an answer, but I can say that now is the time to contact us and tell us what you want and why. And that will help us make our decisions in future.
Okay, and we've got the last question for today.
Any clues about the time frame for the preview compiler becoming the standard? And at the initial presentation, someone mentioned linking issues with the VCL FMX. Ah, yes, the technical preview in its current form doesn't link against the VCL yet, like it's just pure C++. Hopefully this month we may release an update to the technical preview that does link against the VCL, so you can create VCL labs. And we may have, hard to tell, but we may have another update as well during the 12.0 lifetime, I'm not sure. Look, our policy is that I can't give you an answer for something until we actually ship it, and I'm just bound by that, so I can't answer this, but I can tell you that we felt 12.0 was a good release to show you what was, what was being worked on and what was coming. And I can tell you that the final version is coming soon. That is the best I can tell you, but hopefully that's a good answer.
Okay, so it was last question for today. A od swojej strony tutaj BSC chcielibyśmy i tak samo Embarcadero życzyć Państwu wesołych świąt, wesołych Mikołajek, pogodnych, zdrowych, słonecznych, śnieżnych, jak kto chce, komu co lepiej. I żeby wszystko się poukładało, żebyśmy mogli spokojnie wejść w nowy rok tak ze spokojną głową.
So thank you very much for watching and thank you for hosting.